So guys, Season 2, Episode 2 of Titans, Rose, was definitely the experience of Titans Season 2 we should have gotten that premiere episode. I mean, immediately after watching Episode 2, I predicted from last week that this episode would feel like a whole new flavor, which everyone definitely wanted from the get-go for this season. And I feel like this episode lived up to that new flavor we were teased with from those Season 2 trailers, unlike last week's episode, which kind of didn't really deliver until the tail end of the episode, where we were kind of teased with Deathstroke and the Titans joining the Titans Tower in San Francisco, and of course the Bruce Wayne scenes. But before I break down all of the details, guys, and we're talking some pretty nice Easter eggs to do with Roy Harper, go ahead and like this video if you do enjoy it. It really does show your support for the channel, and of course subscribe if you're brand new here for more Titans reviews just like this. And of course check out my Discord server to talk about Titans with me regularly, as I'm pretty active in the server, so come and say hi to me there. So as you all know, this episode starts off 3 months later from the events of when Trigon was defeated, and we see Dick Grayson getting coffee with Raven, as we've seen from the Titans trailers, which teased us with the names of the new Titans group. Then it goes to Jason and Beast Boy training in the Titans Tower, and it definitely should go without saying that this scene was so cool to watch Robin be a badass, having quite literally been blindfolded, even though he did get a little bit frustrated with Beast Boy. But what I especially loved about this scene is that it shows how badass Dick Grayson really is, and it kind of explored a lot more of how he's engulfed this mentorship role this season. Obviously being the Titans leader, with showing Jason, Raven and Beast Boy that they were training blindfolded for a reason, even saying that no matter what is taken from you, you must always be able to carry on fighting. Now even though Dick Grayson is kind of doing this for a good reason, he's putting a family together, teaching kids who are lost to now be found and have each other's backs as the Titans. The other Titans are feeling that he's a little bit kind of over obsessed with the training, something that's definitely followed him from his days with Batman, even to the point when Beast Boy and Raven were teasing his mentorship role as him turning into quite literally Mr. Miyagi before everyone's eyes. But I do also like how Dick Grayson kind of appealed to Jason's ego in these scenes, where he was kind of giving him a pep talk about his leadership and how the others definitely look up to him. And in this moment between Jason and Dick, it kind of just made me think, like, as loud and as confident as Jason comes across, and how it also seems like he doesn't need anyone else, in this moment you really get an insight with how much he kind of liked hearing about how the others looked up to him and how much it actually meant to him. And I just think that he wants people to respect him as much as Dick was making it out to be the case already. This episode was also filled with just brilliant jokes, which were just also dropped as amazing references at the same time. I just love hearing about the Batcomputer and casual conversation now, with a show like Titans actually being able to do that, with even more casual lines in conversations such as Jason going on Batmobile joyrides. I mean, you can just imagine that in your head, especially after the scene of last week's episode. But there was even more crazy jokes, just like Jason Todd looking at kind of naughty websites on the Batcomputer, and Dick Grayson was just like, come on man, you know the Batcomputer isn't used for that. I also loved hearing the line, which was also included in the trailers, and how there's no sidekicks in Titans, and just how it's a place for sidekicks from all the Justice League heroes, if you will, to mainly come into their own. It was even more perfect getting a shadowing for Nightwing as well, with Jason asking Dick, well, if I'm Robin, then who are you? And that's when he replied, like, good question, but you know, we're gonna get that eventually. I mean, we bloody better do. I mean, I need to see that Nightwing suit. I mean, I'm sure you feel the same way. But going back to that Beast Boy scene with Raven when she was studying the art of war, reciting her teachings, just kind of showing how much training everyone really is undergoing. I loved seeing all the Raven artwork around her room as well, but this is when she fell asleep and her demon powers came out to play. In this moment as well, I noticed the subtle demon Trigon-like roar just before she woke up, and then, you know, found that scratch on her. So this kind of just leads me more into what I said about last episode, with also her saying to Beast Boy in this episode that she feels a bit different, like she's not the same person she used to be. So in my episode 1 review, I said that I noticed like this as well post Trigon fight, and also thought that her father may very well kind of have, just like the comics, some kind of influence over her after defeating him. So I think this is kind of a demonstration of of that, in addition to her feeling a bit different, but now with also these wounds that she's, waking up with, as if like a demon was trying to escape from inside her. I'm also looking forward to see how far they take this. I mean, we saw Raven in the season 2 trailer crying and saying that she's so tired, so maybe that was following another demonic-like episode and she's starting to perhaps break, having dealt with it for a little while and putting it down to nothing. But regardless, really excited to see what this means for Raven in this Titans iteration. But this episode was titled Rose after all, so let's talk a little bit about her, and I thought she was freaking badass. Now, honestly, I don't know what it was. Maybe it's because I haven't seen much of Chelsea T. Zhang's work. I think she was like a Disney Channel actress beforehand, and like I have nothing against Ravager, but I just wasn't really anticipating her character this season so much, but I completely swung around the other way, and I'm, as a result, really looking forward to see where Rose Wilson, aka Ravager, continues to go this season. I mean, as we all know, and for those who didn't, would have definitely found out by the end of the episode, along with Jason and Beast Boy on the Titans computer, that she is the daughter of Deathstroke, and her brother is Jericho, who I guess we'll be seeing a little bit later on, and we saw him in like the full season 2 trailer, but only for like a split second. Now, of course, Dick Grayson, as Raven pointed out, can't really help but try and rescue a bird with a broken wing. So after he saw her go on a joyride in the city and beat up a load of cops, he went after her. I have to say that Rose Wilson had like a really cool introduction. I mean, that action was really sweet, and you can even see how Jason thought she was a badass as well. I mean, I guess that's kind of something they have in common, like kind of beating up cops, which yeah. Now the thing is about Rose, at least to me, with what we saw with, what she did in this episode, it all seemed a bit too deliberate to me, as if like she was trying to get the Titans' attention. Even though in the episode, like, she was portrayed as if she wanted nothing to do with the Titans, as of when Dick Grayson found her sleeping amongst that garbage and brought her to the tower to try and welcome her into the family. Now also notice how that wound around her eye is at this point just has a bandage over it, so it's like really fresh. It's going to be really interesting to see exactly how she got that, and we did hear her say to Dick that bringing me here was a big mistake. He'll kill you and everyone you know just to get to me. Now, she could have been on about her father, or she could have been on about Dr. Light, who we'll eventually get to in this breakdown, but I'm thinking maybe her dad. So for now, I feel like this infers that she's running from her father, and even though it makes no apparent sense or reason as to why Slade would kind of carve out his own daughter's eye, which kind of makes her visually similar to him, it's very interesting to consider the theories, as in she could have done this to herself in a similar way to some iterations of the comics. Notice how Jason and Beast Boy were also discussing how quickly the wound of her eye missing had healed over, which attests to her powers, which were also made very clear with how fast she made that jump in the middle of like from that roof to the board meeting with the people in there down below, which was just like a really cool thing to demonstrate with that like really wide shot. Now traditionally, Rose Wilson, aka Ravager, was injected with the same serum that made her father Deathstroke kind of like a superhuman, which gives them increased reflexes, strength, and stamina. It's going to be even more interesting to see if, like, as of when we get her precognition powers, which I guess we're going to see at some point in this season, even though she didn't exactly get any precognition, like future insight into what happened later in the episode with the car blowing up. But then again, could be a part of the story. Yeah, who knows? Also loved seeing Bruce Wayne late at night, still up, kind of like translating from a very old book, which spoke of stillness being the essence of the warrior and how the rock can break the flow of water and the water can wear down the rock. I mean, I guess this just shows Bruce Wayne's consistent drive to improve himself and study, but this conversation highlighted some other details which I found very cool as well. Such as when Dick Grayson was talking about advice for Rose and saying how she is you and me kind of special, and when discussing how it took a long time for Dick Grayson to come around when he was younger, Bruce explained how he managed to get through to him in terms of how it's very hard to be angry in a vacuum, and so he provided a target for the younger Dick Grayson, and how Bruce became a tangible enemy for him growing up. However, this is when Dick Grayson replies that he was just mad at fate and death, and those are just concepts and Bruce is just a person, but this is when Bruce Wayne very awkwardly looks to the side and says more or less. Now this, to me at least, symbolizes Bruce's humanity and struggle to put a placeholder on which side of him is the mask. Now whether that's Bruce Wayne or Batman. The showrunners have also stated that in this season they're going to explore more of Bruce Wayne, and that's evidently what they're doing, like right here, and how he's a great Batman but not really good at being an actual person like his person self, Bruce Wayne. Also, just a side note, Ian Glenn's Bruce Wayne is sinking in a little bit more for me. I mean, how about you guys? Let me know down below. I know a lot of you were kind of like, Ian Glenn's Bruce Wayne is effing terrible. I saw a lot of comments like that. I definitely agree. It was a little bit off for me in the first episode, but I'm seeing what they're trying to do with him. But as much as this episode didn't feature Deathstroke, it also subtly did with the introduction of Dr. Light. So we were introduced to Dr. Light, having him been locked up in San Quentin State Prison, and you can also hear the blades of Deathstroke carving up all of the officers just before unlocking his door. Now this just honestly makes me anticipate in a very good way how insane his fight scenes are going to be versus the Titans later on in the season. I mean, man, like, that was quite a hideous in a cool way kind of scene when he broke him out. Thought the effects of Dr. Light's powers were really cool with how they light up the tattoo markers on his skin and how he absorbed the light from the ceiling and very sadistically killed the last remaining guard. However, this also factored into Hawk and Dove's storyline in this episode with how 3 months later they were kind of chilling in Wyoming with Hank kind of helping this kid in a rehab kind of way, getting off drugs, which he has quite a bit of experience with. But this also just turned into something else for Hawk and Dove, as Dove went out to the lab of the kids' friends and actually made them report themselves to the police. But I have to say, how badass, you know, no matter what Dove did there behind Hank's back, how badass was she in that freaking scene? Like, oh my god. You guys know, like, Hank and Dawn or Hawk and Dove are like my favorite characters on Titans, so any more combat we can see like this, sign me up. But as a result, this did cause quite a bit of friction between Hank and Dawn because, you know, obviously Hank feels as though there is kind of no future or marriage, kids, or life when it comes to being vigilantes. However, though, they will ultimately both suit up together to go up against Deathstroke, as they're now both headed back towards the Titans Tower after Dr. Light tried to kill them both, having turned that kid into like a little Dr. Light grenade, which was just pretty crazy. Now, why did Dr. Light try and kill Hank and Dawn, you may be wondering about. I think that this could be Deathstroke trying to take down the original members of the Titans one by one, starting with Hawk and Dove for whatever past sins they have in relation to their history with Deathstroke from years ago, as we will be getting more scenes from both timelines this season, as in, like, we're going to see like lots of scenes set in the past with the original Titans and what the heck happened there in their history with Slade Wilson. I have to say as well that we're damn lucky that Dr. Light's powers have this kind of delayed charge in terms of that scene with Dick Grayson and Ravager in Dick's car, with the car being blown up and having just managed to escape in time. Now, you could argue that he also wasn't intending to kill Rose, having Deathstroke just, you know, literally released. It's definitely making me think conspiracy theories, like, was he really after Rose there? And I haven't mentioned it up until now, but also we got some insane Easter eggs in this moment. But I loved seeing Starfire and Wonder Girl, aka Donna Troy, together in this team up scene. It was just brilliant. This was a bit more of the upbeat superhero season 2 stuff I've been looking forward to seeing in terms of the similar training stuff we got earlier on in the episode. As I've teased already, this episode was great for Easter eggs, as what we got earlier with the Batmobile and the Batcomputer and stuff. But we also got a line saying, I'm starting to think Roy Harper's intel was wrong when they were staking out for Shimmer in that little van. But Roy Harper, guys, does this mean that we're getting Roy Harper eventually in the Titans? I would love to see that, but either way, my imagination is just literally picturing a Green Arrow and Roy Harper of this Titans live action show. Like, don't get me started, seriously. However, it was kind of a shame that the fight with Shimmer only seemed to last a little bit longer than what we even saw in the trailer, but it was really cool seeing her molecular transmutation essentially turn a newspaper into this giant ass throwing star, if you will. As I said, awesome team up part of the episode, and can't wait for more parts like this and more Easter eggs as such when we saw Roy Harper calling Donna's phone. This is where Corey was abducted by one of her people as well. I mean, I'm looking forward to see where that goes alongside all of this other stuff that we have going on. And this was quite a quick episode, to be honest. It was like less than 40 minutes if you know, cut out the credits and the recap at the beginning. But it ended with a very, very strong tease for things to come, with Jason's, you know, jaw jaw essentially dropping to the floor when they discovered that Deathstroke was Rose Wilson's father, because they were kind of doing something that Dick Grayson didn't want to do through invading her privacy through the insane bat computer tech that could basically find out whoever you are, whenever you are, whatever you are, whenever it wants. But concluding thoughts of episode 2, Rose, honestly, this is the Titans we're meant to be getting this season. This episode being a perfect example of that. As I said, last episode was, basically wrapping up season 1. I also mentioned how, fair enough, they didn't have S.I. Morales cast for Deathstroke, but that seriously should have been the finale for episode 1, season 1, and this should have kind of been the opening for season 2. I mean, 3 months later, introduced the threat of Deathstroke. You could have maybe panned to the cabin, or maybe, I don't know, had a suit mock-up last season. Do you know what I mean? They really could have done it. But either way, this is, exciting stuff ahead, and Deathstroke and his plans are really commencing and going into full swing. But aside from that, everyone, let me know your thoughts on episode 2, Rose. Like this video if you did enjoy it, just to support the Titans content on this channel. I really do appreciate every single one of you guys showing a lot of support on these videos. If you want to talk about Titans with me personally outside YouTube, I am really active on my Discord server, so I'll leave that link in my description down below. But thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you Titans in the next video. Goodbye.